We have long awaited this day, many of us in this room. Peter, hot-headed, St. Peter, hot-headed, impulsive, mercurial, one of those act first and think later sort of people. And Paul, arrogant, self-righteous, contentious, a man who loved the sound of his own voice. This is one of the ways we might describe Peter and Paul, the two people that our calendar invites us to celebrate today on the day we're formalizing the relationship and partnership between the Reverend Christopher Pappas and Christ Church Cathedral. Peter, the unlettered Jewish fisherman, and Paul, the erudite Pharisaical thinker. Peter, the one who denied Christ, and Paul, the one who persecuted Christians. And so what do we make of these two? How are we to think about them, to receive them as our own on this day, and to allow them to give us the good things that they have to give us? How do we allow their stories to inform the story of Christ Church Cathedral and its new rector? For some, I know this might be a bit of a stretch for all kinds of reasons. To state the obvious, Peter and Paul were both men with certain assumptions and privileges in their culture that doesn't match the experience of some here today. Peter and Paul lived in the first century with its own challenges and issues, and here we are living in 2020, a year that perhaps is like no other. Finally, Peter and Paul had powerful personal encounters with or dramatic visions of Jesus, and few of us here have had such experiences. And yet, as Christians here on the coast of Canada, the west coast of Canada, in an unprecedented time with a mind-numbing kind of uncertainty before us, if we stop too long to think about it, I have to believe that Peter and Paul are valuable forebears, still valuable forebears in the faith, in the same way that Mary, the pregnant teenager who had the courage to say yes, the woman who some say was the first of Jesus' disciples, is a valuable forebear for us in the faith. And yes, I am headed toward Peter, Paul, and Mary, by the way. Thinking about it this way then became a bit of a door for me. What I regard as the church's two most important summer feasts, the Feast of Saints Peter and Paul and the Feast of St. Mary the Virgin in August. These all put us in touch with a strange and unlikely trinity of forebears in the faith. So different from one another, so different from us. They must have some commonality that transcends their differences with one another and has the power to leap across the years into our Christian lives today and into this very pivotal moment for Christopher Pappas and Christ Church Cathedral. But what is that commonality, and what is its relevance to us today? Akalutheno. Akalutheno. This, I believe, is something they share, something they bring to us. Akalutheno. It's the Greek work that occurs at the very end of our gospel for today, depicting a post-resurrection dialogue between Peter and Jesus. Do you love me? Jesus asked Peter 3 times to mirror the 3 times of his denial. Peter says yes each time and is told each time to care for those that will be entrusted to his care. Jesus then makes another comment and then concludes the entire exchange with akalukai moi, which means follow me. Akalutheo, to follow. It's the same word that Jesus uses with Peter the first time he meets him, when he calls Peter away from his nets and into a life of fishing for people. Follow me. This sense of following is, of course, not about coming over here from being over there. Rather, it means to accompany on a path in the sense of becoming a learner, to throw your lot in with a teacher, to, in a sense, become a kind of intern along the way. In this passage, then, Peter is renewing his commitment to his internship with Jesus, becoming a learner once again in Jesus' way of walking with God and in Jesus' way of walking with others. Akolutheo, follow me, Jesus says to Peter. Accompany me along the way again as a learner, as an intern, as a practitioner. Many of us know something about internships. A lot of us have experienced that. We entered them when we were not very qualified, when we did not think we had the skills to do what would be asked of us, when we were not ready, when we did not have all of our rough edges sanded away, when we didn't even know what we didn't know. Akolutheo. All we have to do is to be willing to follow. This then is what the three, our Peter, Paul, and Mary, have in common as our parents in the faith, bringing whoever they were, coming from whatever they might have been, each in his or her own way. They said yes to becoming an intern along Jesus' way. For Peter, of course, Scripture suggests that the invitation to follow was a direct one, and then it was an invitation made a second time. For Paul, the invitation to follow came like an interrupting flash of light, calling all that he was doing into question. For Mary, the invitation to follow began with, as a child, her saying yes to a mysterious and fearful angel. But that invitation must have grown and deepened over time as it dawned on her what kind of internship she had actually signed up for. And this, I believe, is what we're looking at today as Christopher Pappas and Christ Church Cathedral come together, with all of us, of course, playing our supportive parts. Sure, Chris has lots of experience and has accomplished many, many things before he ever got here. Sure, this cathedral, under that other Peter's leadership, has accomplished many, many things and has had a ball doing it. We could all tell that. But my friends, that was then. This is now. You are being invited today to sign on to a new internship together in following Jesus. In this internship, neither Chris nor this cathedral will be throwing out everything that has come before. Of course not. But hear this. Following Jesus is not about simply continuing what was done before. Following Jesus is always, God help us, a new adventure in which we must, with God's help, sort out the specific new ways we express the self-giving love, express the thirst for justice, express the commitment to the dignity of every human being, express the willingness to lose life in order to gain life, and express the unquenchable hope that Jesus himself is all about. For all these things need to be grounded in the actual context in which they are meant to be, the place, the times, the circumstances, the issues, the joys, the fears, the craziness, and the actual people around us, both those who are already here at this cathedral and those who've not yet come into this cathedral's orbit. And you know what? As I think about what might happen here, the new thing that might happen here in this partnership, I believe that just like before, you're going to have a ball together. And so thank you, Peter, Paul, and Mary, for the witness of your different internships with Jesus. Thank you for your willingness to follow him, though you were not ready, though it disrupted your lives, and though it cost you dearly. May the red we wear today be a sign of all that this internship, this following of Jesus together, will mean here at Christ Church Cathedral in a season of pandemic and in a time that thirsts anew for racial justice. Let this red remind us of the color of blood poured out, both at birth and in sacrifice. Let this red remind us of the color of wine that makes our hearts glad. And let this red remind us of a love for other human beings and for the earth and its creatures that is as fierce as fire. It is a love that will take us into places we had not counted on. It is a love that will cause us to celebrate, to sing, and to suffer. It is the love that makes all things new.